When we think of vertical AI in these more kind of hands-on physical verticals that maybe aren't thought of as charging forward on innovation, how did that go? How did you get these people on board or get to the point where this was something that they were adopting so heavily?
Construction gets a bad rap for being very hands-on, but it is hands-on. It is very complex. You have so many collaborators. In a typical project, think of building either an office building or an airport or a bridge. There's usually like thousands and thousands of collaborators working on the same project, right? So you can imagine the complexity of everything involved. The complexity involved in getting the information to the right person in the right time. So there's a reason why folks are not distracted and jumping on to the latest cool technology. They're very focused on getting the job done on time, under budget, and then without any major incidents, right? Because safety incidents cost you a lot of money. And so that's the focus. So the way AI can help construction is more on the efficiencies. How can it bring them under budget and on time without as few incidents as possible and as few reworks as possible? Rework is not right, and you have to go in and rip it all out and do it again.
This is not software, right? Where maybe you mess up code and just go rewrite it. You spend money on physical inventory.
Yeah. That's right. And it costs time and money and the cleanup and wastage. That's where you want to focus information. The first focus is really dissemination of information. How can you make that faster? Point out the revision changes. Can you easily look at what changed from the last revision to this? That's a huge use. And then following up on people. Did everyone get the right revision? Did they look at it? Did they look at the questions that are coming? There's this process called RFIs. It's called request for information. And it starts even before the project starts, where the owners will get out specifications and say, this is what we want you to build. And the general contractors come in and say, okay, I understand what you want me to do. Let me go get estimates from my trade folks and my specialty contractors who need to do all of this work. So they go in, and in that process, when they're sharing all of these documents, the trades will look at certain parts of the specification. And in some cases, the GCs will look at certain specifications and say, oh, when you said this, did you mean A, B, or C? And that's needed before they can start to price it out and give an estimate. So that process is called request for information. So it can come from either the trades or it can come from the GCs, and it usually goes to the owners and architects who made the specification and the designs. That process takes a lot of time. And there's a lot of streamlining that can be done. How you ask the questions, did they answer it right? Is there intent? Can you determine intent from how it was written to answer the question? If it's ambiguous, then go ahead and request the information and then make sure that the information coming out answers the question at the right time. So that's just an example of things you can streamline. There's tons of these processes. One of the first AI products we released at Procore was automated area takeoff. To do that, you can use computer vision to look at these drawings, extract out the measurements, and then decompose that into how much concrete, how many sheets of drywall, and so on. So those are exactly the kind of things that AI can help with. And now with LLMs, you can use it for many more. Construction is full of unstructured data. And I say this every day as I talk to our customers is, this is truly construction's time for AI, because LLMs in their current form are best with unstructured and multimodal, which is where the sphere of construction is, between capturing your videos, your photos, any kind of drone imagery that is automated, and all the drawings that are involved, and then the documents back and forth, your specifications, and any correspondence between all the different collaborators that work on the project, your architects, your owners, your general contractors. There's a lot of content that generates, and most systems will have all of these as document repositories, but then you also have to tag them separately. And AI, as we started to do, is more tagging, but now you can ask questions. You no longer need to rely on a person who remembers where the folder structure and who knows what document went where, right? You can no longer rely on a person. You can just ask the system.
I love that the first example was not even before a bid was accepted, but during request for information. There's massive ways to save time and efficiency already. This seems like one of those things where I've heard again and again, and something we're trying to practice here is a lot of these tools don't work great if they're bolted on, or if you're making someone change their flow or their work pattern or kind of do something really differently. They're just going to keep doing the thing they were doing. To make it really work, it just has to work. Looking at Procore, was that like a key part of driving kind of the construction industry to move forward? Is there's no change management, there's no changes, just it's going to fit into making these things you already do better, faster, stronger, smarter?
That is the ideal scenario, right? I always like to say, if you can make AI work at a consumer level, like the maps, if folks can just use maps without Understanding how it works, that's a win. And everybody's going to use it. I get this question all the time from my customer. They say, oh, the trades won't use AI. And I said, they use smartphones, and smartphone is filled with AI. So for sure, it's getting that consumer grade, but in some ways, it's also building the trust. If you can automate some of the tedious tasks and they can see that it can happen without them hand-holding the process all the way through, that builds trust. And then you build a trust to then leverage it to go up the chain, serving up more insights, serving up more automations and suggesting more automations. They're more likely to take it on to get there. Now, let me be clear. I'm not saying Procore by any means solved all the AI challenges for the industry. We are still very early in our journey. What I can say is they are very much more open and excited about the potential of AI. And as much as I've been evangelizing and Procore's been evangelizing and rest of my partners in the construction industry, all the new startups are evangelizing, I think really the change came from LLMs and using LLMs in their personal life and how easy it is to use and get answers. And some of them bring that learnings into their work and seeing the value of what it can bring. And actually, a funny story, 2 years ago is when LLMs really burst into the scene. We had our executive cab meeting in February and we were ranking, and we tend to do this. We are very customer driven and we'll bring our executive cab members and say, hey, here's a few directions we're thinking about. Give us what you think is important to you. Not that we'll take that 100%, but as one more data point into how we create our strategy. So when we did that, AI came at the bottom of the stack. I think it was in 9th priority. Fast forward 3 months, by June, we are having customers say, hey, remember you guys want to talk about AI? Let's talk AI. Let's Procore think about AI. What are you planning to do? What should we know? What should we do? So it's come a long way, but it's just we're scratching the surface. Still just the beginning. There's so much we can do.
Like you said, people didn't realize how deeply you've been using it already when you can type in the kind of rough name of a restaurant in your map and it just magically takes you to the right restaurant. Or all the kind of voice assistants, there's some level of AI built into those things for them to work. It's just now more at some level, the curtain was pulled back a little bit to say, hey, there's AI.